Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Alchemize with Alanna, first of 2026. So tonight's topic, artificial intelligence. It is advancing at an extraordinary pace, and human awareness is not always at the same speed. What we won't be sharing today are tools, prompts, or trends. There's plenty of that out there. This conversation is about what's operating beneath the technology. It's about our internal systems that have shaped the future of leadership long before AI started to. Even though I think AI has been around a lot longer than I think we're led to believe. Our internal systems are made up of our beliefs, ego, structures that often protect without even realizing it, and unconscious patterns that drive decisions and have an impact. As AI becomes more integrated into how we work and lead, understanding our own inner technology is essential. Growth with awareness creates powerful ripple effects. And today, we'll explore what it really means to evolve with technology without losing ourselves in the process. Today, I'm joined by Wendy Paquette, CEO and President of Holographic Wellness Initiative. She works with high-achieving, forward-thinking leaders who are ready to alter their current trajectory, not by doing more inner work for the sake of it, but by understanding what's truly driving their reality. Her work challenges people to ask one powerful question. What do you truly want, and what's actually been running the system so far? This conversation will bridge leadership, awareness, and responsibility in an AI-driven world. Welcome, Wendy, to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So to start, we're going to prompt the audience with a question. We'd love to hear from you. And as we're having this dialogue, ask us questions. We'd love to also hear how what we're talking about resonates with you. So audience, where in your leadership are you operating on autopilot rather than awareness? Drop it in the chat. So first topic, human technology in an AI world. So this phrase, human technology, when I first saw that as a topic, I'm curious what this means to you, especially in contrast to artificial intelligence. Like, what are we often overlooking in ourselves while focusing on external tools?
Yeah, well, external tools are generally where we lean to when we're going to create anything. We're not usually talking about our own selves when we're using AI. We're trying to prompt it to do something. We're looking at it as a tool to support us to do something. And we get caught up in the externalness of it all instead of looking at our human technology, which is the ability to know what's next and then incorporate AI as a powerful ally versus a tool that we're using. So the human technology is what we already possess. We were born with it. And that we were born with it, that's how it changes the game.
100%. Yeah, something I'm noticing because I've been doing this work for 21 years now, especially with the integration of AI, is that tools have always been there, but the depth of which we use them and the reliance on them
Yeah.
is definitely changing, especially as technology has advanced and has become more innovative, and they're utilized more to support the work that we do.
Yeah.
All that to say, when you see leaders unconsciously operating from internal systems, like especially under pressure or rapid change, like where do you see those systems help, and where do they limit us, like the internal versus the AI?
Well, the internal is the opposite of the AI that we use as a tool outside of us. The internal technology is something that we use from, say, the soul level where we know something. The AI technology is where I call an ego. There's two aspects of it. There's a soul-led driven knowing, which is a human technology. Then there's the ego, which it represents AI to me. Meaning you can input programming, you can input data, you can input questions, and you'll get answers, but they're just data collection up until today, everything you've given it. So it's just your ego using its protection modality, all the programming it has had up until now in order to direct you in your reality. Where your human technology is different, that is the internal driven space where you know things. Not know things as in the data that you've been taught to, say, regurgitate or repeat or use, but the internal knowing where you sense something's off, something's not right, or you begin to question things where your brain will say, well, no, this is exactly the way it is because you've been taught that way. Your internal knowing is going to say, I think we should look into this because something feels off. We don't feel off because our brain tells us we feel off. We feel off because there's a whole body experience that's saying something doesn't feel right about what my brain is interpreting. And so that's the difference. When we look at, say, the external world in maybe a corporate setting, we're taught to do systems, and systems work, except for there's no growth unless you can see the gaps in between the system in growth. So imagine something that's stretched out. If an elastic stayed the way it was and you never stretched it and used it for its capacity, you could never see that over time, the gaps are in between let's say, the stretching pieces. So you're going to stretch it. It never goes back to the same thing. It keeps getting bigger and encompassing a greater area until it breaks, which means it's limited. And that's how I see what happens with using our internal AI, which is the ego AI, or an internal human technology, which is supposed to be an ally of the ego, right?
Yeah, well, and hearing you talk about that, what I'm hearing in it, it's a little confusing to me, but what I'm hearing in it is the conscious and the unconscious, which I've also learned a lot about in
Yeah,
addition to, say, heart science, and the gift of our emotions and really utilizing them, not just managing them.
yeah,
And this, like as you were describing it, I was thinking about all the times that I have a pretty strong intuition and I pay attention to it. And sometimes I will literally get a very visceral, kinesthetic feeling in my body. And that's how
yeah.
I'll know. And then I'll pay attention to where in my body it's showing up and how intense it is. And then that's also feedback.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. That is the human technology that I'm talking about. The ego, which is an aspect of our programming, it's programming itself, which is what I'm calling the AI, the human AI. The ego is AI in that it only holds the data that we've given it. So it is programmed to behave in a specific way that causes our decisions and our choices moving forward. So when we use just our brain or just our ego to make decisions, we're missing that part of ourselves, which you call intuition or human technology, that's saying, wait a second, something feels out of alignment here. Even if it's something that you've learned in a system, like what I was saying with a strategy or a system, there is always room for growth. And if you're not growing, then you're not interpreting reality as like using time, let's say, because over time, knowledge grows. You grow as a human over time using knowledge. That same thing occurs when you're using systems. And if the systems aren't growing with you, then there's something that's going to mess up. There's something that's going to have a kink in the chain. Back in the day when we would defrag our computers, it
Yeah.
was you had to actually go in and defragment the computer so that it was then cleaned up, organized. You got rid of all the things that were no longer working in order for it to function properly, leaving room for new.
Well,
So,
we still technically have to do that, right? Like getting rid
yeah,
of cookies in a web browser or,
for sure.
yeah, or deleting certain files, or storage on a laptop, right?
Yeah,
But and then processing this for ourselves as a human, I feel like sometimes people get lost in the depth of the emotion of it,
yeah,
versus having the ability to actually look at it with a different set of eyes and approach it more in a logical sense, almost as if they're outside of it so they can see it through a different lens.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use actually, in my work, I use the emotions as the indicator to programs, whether they're in alignment or out of alignment.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
when you experience an emotion, whether it's from a circumstance, a person, a place, a thing, a process you're doing, you're experiencing I call it a lower frequency emotional response, or neutral or below when it comes to experiencing emotions. I allot that to an indicator of an out of line program, an old data system it's no longer serving you. That's where the ego will step in and go, well, I've always done that. That's what I've always done. And why is it not working now?
Oh,
So
and it'll protect it, right? Like, because it
for
doesn't
sure.
want, yeah, it doesn't want you to move on or grow out of it, or replace it with something else. So
Absolutely.
it will dig its heels in. Yeah.
And usually we just power through. We're like, oh, we're just going to get people say, oh, just let it go. Just get over it. And that's the equivalent of saying, it's okay. Don't defrag your computer. It won't break down. And,
Yeah.
Suddenly it stops working. It's the same idea. The body and the skin suit to me is the representative in the sense of a computer, the same thing. So our human experience is reflected in a computer. The skin suit being the hardware, the ego mind being the software, but we're also the editor of the software.
We can be if
We are
we
the
choose to
user
be
of
the
it.
designer or the authenticator. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're the architect of the reality in the sense that we're able to use the AI in order to input what we want and then have a human experience in emotions in order to decide, is this in alignment or not? And so that the computer itself, the physical computer, is a representation of our humanness, our human body, our human skin suit. We're able to understand it better. So if we are the programmer and we are the experiencer of the programmer, and we house the programming, we are the hardware, software, and everything that it encompasses. What we're seeing is everything we're doing with AI on our computer, we can do with our bodies, we can do with our minds, we can do with our souls. We can call it intuition, we can call it anything you want, but the experience of an emotion is a pure indicator that there is something else there. Because without a skin suit, we wouldn't have feelings or emotions.
Right. We would just be consciousness, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
I love that, because it's really empowering to think of myself as in this realm that you're speaking of, as the
Yeah.
developer, the coder, if you will. That I'm
Absolutely.
right, like I'm literally developing and coding my own video game while I'm also the main player in it, and that's the power
Absolutely.
that I have. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you finally allow yourself to know that, that changes the game forevermore, because you can never then be a victim to your reality if you're writing the code to your own game. You can only
Absolutely.
be empowered in knowing that if I don't like something, my absolute job is to discover what program is showing up that's out of alignment to my experience in this reality, and naming it and changing it and experiencing the change is 100% the core of my work. It is the easiest thing on the planet to do. And because it's so easy, I think people misinterpret the power of it, because it's easier to point a finger at someone, something, a circumstance, history, or anything that's happening in our reality and say, well, this is happening to me. And if it's happening to me, then I'm a victim to it. And
Right.
if I'm a victim to it, then I have no power in this situation. And that's just simply not true.
Well, and instead of saying it's happening to me, it's happening for me. And then where I've evolved from that is it's happening through me, which totally, relates to what we're talking about. Now, where I want to go with this next also is, okay, so in this AI accelerated world,
Yeah.
and we're talking about inner capacities, and them becoming non-negotiable for leaders who want to remain effective and grounded in the work that they do and how they lead. So, um, what does that look like? Because for me, it's awareness, it's discernment, it's emotional regulation, it's taking responsibility and ownership. Like, how do you think these show up in leadership decisions?
Well, you get to remember what your actual target is, right? It's no longer about, am I doing the right thing? Because if you have no target in front of you, you can't know that. There's no indicator going to be presented to you if you do not know what the target is. So if you're a leader in a space that's like partnering with a corporation or a company and you have a specific target, you can then lean into, okay, well, when creating this, what do I get to do? Who do I get to talk to? And how do I get to lead my team? Where I can identify the programming that's out of alignment to creating this with absolute speed and an accelerated reality, where I can achieve results like I've never achieved before when identifying programs in the way of actualizing it. So, who on my team is capable of this? And you'll know the human technology within you will allow you to know exactly who the person is, even when you have a conversation with them, asking them questions, utilizing your own human technology in conjunction with one of your, I guess, teammates, your team itself, to see what's in alignment with what they're after. Are they aligned with the same vision? And can we discover any programming that is out of alignment in order to create this with great ease and total success? So
Yeah.
it rests in, well, of course, everything's top down. The leader of the leader of the leader, in order to identify all the programming first and handle that, because it could be the difference between having teammates who are out of alignment with the team itself, in which case that will slow down any project. So that would be where I would first go.
So, yeah. So, what this makes me think about, and I want to pause for a moment, like in terms of leaders and the knowing and the recognizing and seeing the dynamics at play. I have a great example that illustrates how like something important about AI and where human conversation still matters. So, a client came to me in a session feeling really stuck with a direct report who is she's a leader of leaders, by the way.
Mhm.
And she shared with me how trust between them was eroding. And it was because he was missing deadlines. He was slipping in terms of that, lots, and related to things that he needed to get to her and also his peers on
Yeah.
the team. And that cost money and also lost time. So before we talked, she had gone into an AI platform and prompted it as a leadership coach. And she asked it, how do I help an associate who talks too much and isn't getting work done?
Oh.
And she received this really intense output. It was a big document with lots of words, but it gave her frameworks and a worksheet and language around prioritization and boundaries. But she brought it to me because it's too much. Like, I don't know what to do with this. Right. So it was
Yeah.
logical and it sounded smart and it was technically correct. But in the end, what we realized in conversing about it was that it wasn't about productivity, it was about trust. And
Yeah.
so we slowed everything down. She separated, observation from judgment, because
Yeah.
that showed up and she was admitted of that. And we looked at the patterns, both hers and his, and where she was potentially enabling. That was a big part of it. Where she felt bad, because sometimes leaders make certain decisions because they feel bad. They don't want to
Yeah.
let people down. They don't want to hurt feelings. And where she already had said the same things in different words, but it wasn't being affected. So we shifted one question from emotional to neutral. And she asked him, when you don't keep our one-to-one meetings, what
Mhm.
message do you think that communicates to me? And that single reframe changed the entire dynamic between them.
Yeah.
So that was really powerful. And so what I want to bring up here is, for those that are listening to this, if you need support in this way, I do have a single session called the Resolve session that I can help take a scenario like this and work with you on this. But in this scenario, AI gave her structure, but the coaching session gave her traction, and that's the difference. And Jesse's going to drop a link in the chat about the Resolve session. But also, Wendy, this is why I wanted to talk with you about this and have this conversation, because as powerful as AI is, it can't see patterns in real time or feel where trust is breaking down. And it also can't necessarily help someone choose language that actually lands in a human way. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's funny that you say that because the first place I went was with trust, but ironically, as I was saying earlier, that our computer is a direct reflection of us in our reality in this third dimension. It also means that people are too. And however they're showing up, whatever, say in her world, whatever her experience of this teammate was, this partner was, or this employee was, is a direct, however she was feeling, that lower frequency feeling was a response of her programming, not his.
Yes.
And because it was her programming reflected off of him,
I was just
her,
going to say that, like
her
her
shift,
programming is like bumping up against his
exactly.
programming. And yeah.
It would be her shift that would create the difference. Because once she addressed her own programming around what was showing up for her, it is inevitable and has no other choice but to show up differently in that human. And as weird as that may seem, when this reality is a reflective place, the only thing you can do is not believe me and try it for yourself. Realize that the outside world is a reflection. The only thing that we have are our emotions. I mean, the skin suit is a resonator itself. It's going to resonate as a tuning fork. Our external world is the tuning fork. So if we're feeling, the resonator is resonating and we are feeling a lower frequency emotional response, it's not because someone else is doing something to us. It's because someone else is being something that's reflective of who we are being. And when we shift who we are being, we also shift the reflection, which will show up as an employee or a partner or whatever it's going to be. And in that space, there's a lot that a leader can do that has nothing to do with making an employee do anything. That's how you can find genius in people.
Yes.
Activate more genius in them and allow them to really dive into what they're best at, what they're great at, what their genius is. And then if you're feeling emotional response to it, a lower frequency emotional response, it is upon you to shift that emotional response so that you, in the way that not just shift it like, oh, let it go, but identify the program that's showing up before you and address that program itself within you so that you can then experience something different happening outside of you. It is by far the most powerful tool that a lot of, say, CEOs or team leaders don't use because it's too woo-woo, it's too fluffy, it's too whatever, it's too not structured, it's too not corporate. And yet it's the most powerful secret weapon that all of the high performers use.
Well, and yes, and it's also, it depends on an individual's exposure to something like that, which some people have been and some people have not. So, right, like that's the opportunity that we can provide in the kind of work that we do to expose them to that and create a safe space where they can practice it and have that self-reflection to learn in a safe space. So I want to share another prompt for the audience.
Yeah, sure.
What internal pattern has driven your success and may now be limiting your next level? So this is where I want to move into how the ego is AI, which I find fascinating too. So it's, when I think about this, like the ego and AI, so it's pattern based, it's predictive, it's reactive. The ego can also learn and reinforce itself over time, just like AI. So can you unpack this a little bit more for us?
Yeah, of course. It's a lot of what I've just been saying because your external world is reflected from your internal world. The one thing that runs on autopilot is your ego, your subconscious, right? The place that holds all the programming. And because it holds all the programming and responds to you when you're moving through your world as such, it's exactly like AI. When you're asking AI questions, you're asking in the moment that something's occurring or that you want something or you're trying to plan for something. It's the same thing when you're thinking. Your responses, if they come from your mind, is all thinking based versus coupling it with the knowing space of your human technology. The AI version, your ego being AI, is going to only do what it's taught to do. And at this point, it's been programmed to protect you from death. It's like, okay,
yes, it's the survival brain. It's that lizard brain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, oh, saber-toothed tiger coming, run, right?
Yeah.
No matter what, go unconscious and put all the extremities with the energy and run. And that's simply not going to happen in this moment. So no saber-toothed tiger is going to jump through the actual computer at you. So you get to lean into this space of understanding that because that's a program, it's not just that one thing that's going to stop you from getting to your next level. If you input it into AI, just like your example earlier, hey, how do I get an employee to stop talking so much and do more work? It's going to spit out the data that it's been given, which is pattern driven, structure driven, human driven. It's not going to give you that emotional response level where you can assess the nuances, the subtle nuances of the resonation that that experience is giving you, because every single person is going to feel something different. So I'm going to use an example. Alanna, if you and I were sitting on a couch together and we're watching a movie and we're at my house, we're watching a movie, we're like, yeah, we're going to have girls' night. We're going to watch a movie. We're going to watch the, whatever, pick a movie. We're going to watch the exact same movie, you and I. We're sitting there, we watch the whole movie. And at the end of it, you say to me, oh, Wendy, that was the best movie I've ever seen. When this happened, I felt so inspired. And when this happened, I felt my power kicking because I wanted to do something and all these great things. I love that movie. I'll watch it again. And I, who sat beside you on the same couch at the same house and the same TV watching the same movie, say, are you kidding me? I hated that movie. It was awful. I didn't like it at all because I felt disempowered when this happened. And I felt sad when this happened. And I felt like I don't want to watch this. This doesn't make me feel good when this happened. What's the
Yeah.
difference between those two experiences? We're watching the exact same movie on the exact same TV in the exact same living room, on the exact same couch, side by side. And the only difference is your interpretation and your experience of what's on the television, what movie we're watching, and mine. Meaning our programs are different. Your programming is wired to interpret the things you're seeing on a higher level at, oh, that's easy, or that's okay, or I don't mind that, or that's invigorating, where I'm like, oh no, I want to run and hide. That makes me feel awful. I want to crawl into the corner and hide my head. Those two differences are a clear indicator that human consciousness matters more than anything that an AI could ever do, because it cannot interpret that. No matter how synthetically programmed it is, it will never feel anything like we do on the subtle resonance space. Now, because that is true, it doesn't mean we can't appreciate AI for what it is, because it can create speed like nothing else. But when you're coupling the programming piece with your human consciousness, with your human technology, you can create worlds that are so vastly different than what you've experienced that then you can accredit AI to having supported you in a way that's worth talking about, versus, oh yeah, it's taking over. I don't have to do anything to make money. I could just set up all my automations and it's making money for you. Well, that's wonderful. Except for when you lose your human self in that space, where will you be when you're depressed and full of anxiety because you've put all of your power into an automated AI system? What's left, right? How
Well,
do
what's
you interact with
interesting
people?
about that is
Yeah,
when I see people giving their power away in general, in
yeah,
relationships as a whole. And
for
then the
sure.
other thing, when you were talking a little bit earlier about this, speaking of the nuances, but another layer to this is um there's the relationships that we're in and the consciousness of who we're being in any moment,
Yeah,
and not realizing that there's different layers of programming that are actually taking place,
yeah,
and what has our attention and our focus, and we don't even realize it.
yeah,
There's these great videos. It was from a long time ago. It was like a bicycle ad campaign in the UK, and there's one with basketball players, and they're telling it's a minute long, and they're telling the person watching to focus on the number of times the players that are dressed in white passing it to the players that are dressed in black. So you're counting every time they pass the ball.
right,
But because you're so focused on that, you don't notice that there's somebody literally walking across the screen in a bear suit doing the moonwalk, and you can't see it.
Yeah.
It's the most bizarre thing. And then when you go back and replay it, you're like, oh my gosh, it was there. And it's
Yeah.
because it's that reticular activation,
For
you know,
sure.
right? In terms of brain science and what we're focused on. So if you're in that movie example, if I'm super hyper focused on something that gets triggered by watching that movie, and it sets me off, and you're focused on something completely else, that can also influence and impact our
Oh,
experience of it.
100%. And like the main primary operating system that you carry are the things that you're focusing on, and you're unconsciously seeking validation. You're seeking
Yes.
coherence. You're seeking coherence. You're not being
Yes.
coherence. And that's where it really gets messy. And so my interpretation of that is presence.
Yes. Well,
Or
and what's scary about, speaking of validation, what's scary about AI is it's programmed to
yeah,
consistently validate you
yeah.
so that you stay on the platform, you rely on it more. And talk about ego, it strokes your ego.
Does totally. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It is the external representation of a genius human in every single skin suit. I mean, the human technology that we have, we're all born with it. There isn't anybody who doesn't possess it. And if they feel like they don't, it's because the programming is creating that experience. They think that they don't have it. They believe or they feel in their minds that they're not good enough. They're not smart enough. They haven't had the proper upbringing. They weren't born into the proper family. Well, they were born in the wrong side of the tracks, or the wrong side of the country, the wrong side of the world, right? All of the programming that's actually there, I'm not suggesting that it's not true, because it is. This is all programming. So
But
when
how
we
much are you going to use that as your reason and excuse to justify?
I think it's because they don't know. It's only because you don't realize and you don't know that the programming exists. We're taught to overcome. And
So,
overcoming
yeah.
is not acknowledgement. It's just like, oh, well, that's the lower frequency of my reality, so I have to overcome it, meaning it's always going to be what it is, and I will always own all those crappy programs that go along with it because I was born with that. Like I got, the raw deal, I'll never win, all of those things, versus someone who says, that's not actually true because I'm here and I know I'm capable. I'm walking, I'm talking, I'm living, I'm breathing. So I have human technology that can change all of that. And so addressing it makes a massive difference. And
So
the
on
ability
that,
to.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah.
Mhm.
On that note, how can leaders recognize when they're running an ego automation versus conscious choice, like especially in moments where they have power or control and they don't even realize it?
I think the power part of it is what's going to indicate what's running it. Are they using power as an external identity, or are they being the power that they actually are? If they're using power, that means they're always going to have an element of what's called the imposter syndrome. You're going to feel
Mm,
like an imposter, and that's going to be hidden. It will show up in some way: secret anxiety, secret panic attacks, illnesses that come out of nowhere, because it compiles within you that misalignment. So you can tell when someone's coming from an egoic power, because when they're speaking, you can feel their head talking. Versus when someone's present with you, they're utilizing their internal power, the power that we are all born with, that's just sort of covered up with all of the programming that causes us to feel small or feel
yeah.
limited. Yeah.
Okay. So for the sake of time, because I could talk to you all day about this. So one more question for the audience. So as technology accelerates, what part of you needs to mature alongside it? And now I want to move us into how a high achiever's growth can change the world, which is really
Mhm.
powerful. So high achievers often think of personal growth as private, it's personal.
Yeah.
But there's, seeing it as a collective. So why? Okay, so how does one leader's internal evolution actually impact teams, systems, culture? I mean, I have an answer to this too, but I want to see what you have to say as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to circle back. It's the same thing. Our external reality is a reflection and permission of our presence, and who we're being is 100% leaking out to everyone around us. So if you're activating your own knowing within the space of personal power and personal growth, it's because you're being it. You're actively seeking your own personal growth from the space of knowing, not thinking or believing. And I have my own interpretation of belief versus knowing, because if you believe something, you do not know it. And if you know something, you don't need to believe it. And when you know something, you don't have to have someone else's permission to walk forward with it,
Yeah,
because it is what it is.
the conviction is a lot stronger, isn't it?
And it's
But people
confidence.
get less swayed.
Yeah, it's confidence, it's competence, it's evident, and it emanates from you, as in you know it. You could say something that's completely off the charts. All of this work that I've been doing for 12 years has been the same. 12 years ago, when I spoke like this, people were like, I do not know what you're saying. And when you what do you mean eliminate lower frequency emotional responses? What are we going to be, like a zombie? Because all they could think about was that those emotions that they were feeling were the only ones they were feeling. They were dismissing joy, peace, even neutrality as nothing. It's like, oh, well, that's just the way it should be. And if I'm feeling a crappy emotion, it's because that's the emotion. So emotions were categorized into bad emotions.
Well, they're
Emotion
categorized
equals
as good
bad.
or bad. That's pretty much it. Like there was
Yeah.
no spectrum, and the word frequency, that language, was, I have a feeling, intentionally hidden from us, because
Yeah.
once we discover, oh, everything's frequency and how that functions and how that relates to how we show up, how we feel things, how we uh, interact with things, the impact that we have,
Yeah.
then that's where power comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, you can only back then, when the first time someone said that to me, well, what are we going to be, like zombies? I was like,
Yes.
oh boy, I got work to do, because I'm, what about, all the beautiful frequencies programming, like the programming? It's also programming, and emotions of high frequency are excitement, love, joy, exhilaration, peace. All of those things are high frequency emotions. So if you're going to eliminate lower frequencies from your being, from your body, from your mind, you're going to experience, by law and by mathematics, the average raising, which means the higher frequencies are going to be what's left, meaning you're going to have more days that are 95% awesome, 95% beautiful, 95% neutral, which is a far cry from feeling crappy every day and thinking you just got to get through the day. So I knew that there was a lot of articulation that got to occur when I was walking into the arena of talking about all these things. And 12 years ago, we just didn't have this. We didn't have AI. We didn't have a lot of things that we do have now, which has really made it easy for me to talk about it, because when one's mind is open to even the fact that AI exists, all of the stuff I'm talking about seems like chump change, seems easy, right? Because
So,
AI seems
yeah.
complex at that point.
Yeah. So what shifts when a high performer stops trying to optimize themselves and instead becomes deeply aware of what they're amplifying?
I think it's both, because you can
Okay.
optimize your frequency by knowing what's in the way. The invisible ceiling that high performers have is invisible for a reason. It's not obvious. It's something that they run into, they just can't put their finger on. So they do every little thing they can think of, every little thing that's presented to them, in order to try to overcome it, because it's invisible. So optimizing themselves is the same thing. It's really allowing themselves to know that there is an invisible ceiling, that they can acknowledge that that is true. And it is a programmed piece of themselves also, which then they can actually say, okay, well, how do I utilize this technology that I have, this human technology? Check in with the ego AI, like ego that is an AI representation, and address myself for what might be in the way. It's never what you think it is. If you're staring down the barrel of running a faster mile, It's never that you have to just push to run a faster mile. It's what might be in the way, what emotional experiences in a lower frequency might be in the way of that occurring naturally. And that piece of it is what is honestly most fun for me when I work with high performers, is to eliminate that lower tier within their invisible ceiling to allow them to run the faster mile with ease. And they say, well, I didn't do anything different. And that is the key. You don't have to do anything. You get to be everything.
Yeah, it's the doing versus the being, and
Yeah,
there is a difference. And so what
yeah,
I'm hearing in that is by optimizing, you're going to amplify a whole different.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
You can't not
absolutely.
amplify, because amplification is broadcasting further, farther, wider, and with a quantum resonance. So optimizing is amplification.
Yeah, it's the recognition of impact, right? And
Yeah.
what I was going to say earlier to that other question is that when you talked about permission, and I see it as modeling, I will talk about it as, whether you realize it or not, you are consistently modeling behavior.
Yeah.
You're giving people permission in terms of what is okay, what's not okay.
Yeah.
And then if what you're doing is different than what you're saying, not only will that cause confusion, but that's going to, talk about confusing the way that you're leading. And then when you wonder why people don't know what to do, or they don't know when to take initiative, or they don't know what kind of authority that they have in terms of making certain decisions, well, that's coming from you.
Yeah. I would say it's a beingness too, because if you're being fully you, which some would say authenticity is 4,000 times more powerful than love. And people are like, what are you talking about? Love is very powerful.
Actually,
Authenticity
authenticity, yeah, is the highest
it
frequency.
is a
Yeah.
higher frequency, because
Yeah.
it's you giving yourself permission to be fully you no matter what.
Yep.
And that encompasses all frequencies of love, which is then amplified in that way. So I would say, even so, it's more than just doing for giving permission, it's being.
Yeah.
Because if you can own your mistakes, that is a beingness that's so powerful. When your team sees it, it gives them permission to not try to hide or cover up or patch holes in something that they've done. It is more about going, okay, I acknowledge that I made a mistake. And that's far more authentically powerful than anything you could ever model, right? So being fully authentically you in your space is exactly how high performers can change the world. When you are being you at your fullest capacity, it means that the external world doesn't have a say in who you are.
You're dictating the external world.
You
Yeah,
are
you being a
you
true
fully.
author.
Yep. And you
Yeah.
will reflect that outward. And it doesn't matter. Judgment disappears when you have full permission of yourself to be who you are. There is no such thing as judgment, because when you look at someone and they're judging you, you understand that they're functioning from their human technology. They're functioning from the AI technology of what they think is true about them, or what they think is true about you, which is not using the human technology in knowing.
Well,
They believe you're being something like,
yeah.
egoic or whatever, but really you're being truthful to you, which is authentically real. It's not a formulaic program that's spitting out of your face. Right? So
Yeah.
there's a significant difference. So when high performers are being fully themselves, they do the craziest things. What that one very thing happens to be the most powerful thing, because when others see them doing something really crazy, really amazing, really unique to them, they're inspired. Music is 100% a representation of that. When you hear authentic music that has not been commercialized like crazy, that sounds like everything else, not in the mastering of it, but in its uniqueness, you're drawn to it because of that very uniqueness, because that is the part of you that you're craving, the unique capacity to be so you that it doesn't matter what people say.
Well, and that's an interesting thing to point out too, as we're going to wrap up soon, because I don't know about you, but in terms of uniqueness, I'm
Mm.
seeing language patterning with AI content, and even now the way people speak, because they're using AI developed content
Yes.
to speak, and I can hear it so clearly now,
Yeah.
and it's frustrating, and everybody's starting to sound the same. So that uniqueness is going to be even more important and is going to stand out even more because people are being programmed to be one note from their
Yeah.
utilization of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when you use AI to do that and you're repeating what AI is giving you without personalizing it from your
Yeah.
perspective, you are literally saying what everyone else is saying, doing what everyone else is doing, being what everyone else is being, which is so out of alignment and is a program in itself that you need to do that in order to be something. It's quite interesting and fascinating to watch, actually.
Yes, it is. So to close this out, I want to leave us with this. AI will continue to evolve. The real question is, will we?
Yes,
So,
love it.
so Wendy, how can people find you? And then you also wanted to share a little bit about a program that you have.
Yeah, well, you can find me by going to my website at wendypaquette.com. And there you'll find a secret podcast. It's right in the top bar, says podcast. If you follow that through, it's a secret because there's so much uniqueness in there. And, I'm inviting in those who actually experience themselves in that space of wanting to have that unique access to themselves. So you can find me there. Uh, Also, if you go to my Instagram, it's Wendy Bruner Paquette. That's my handle. Feel free to message me there and I can share some of the stuff with you. But the program that I'm putting out now is literally taking what I know, how I can see the programming and shift it with people and teaching you how to access your own unique way of seeing your own programming and shift it. So my program is called I don't even like calling it program, but the knowledge base in there is called Litmus Shift. The Litmus Shift. It was called the litmus test, but I realized that is a scientific term that I didn't want to
Yes.
confuse anyone with, but it has the same power. It's a litmus shift. It's proof that you know that you have the capacity to identify your own programming. And so I walk you through learning how to use your own human technology to have the proof that you do know what your programming is. It's quite powerful and I'm really excited to share it. Up until last year, so it took 11 years, people would ask me, "Can you teach me to do what you do?" And I'm like, "No, I cannot, because I
And
don't
now you
want you to
can.
do
Yes.
what I'm doing. Not
Yeah.
in the sense that I don't want you to shift programming, but I don't want you to try to repeat what I'm doing exactly, because you won't get the results that I'm getting because it's very unique." And then I thought, you know what? I can actually teach others how to access their own human technology and then uniquely see their way of identifying their own human technology, their own human programming. And then from there, in further programs and work, learn how to shift it so that you do have a different experience and you can see it reflected for you. So I would love for everyone to test it out and see for themselves. I'm like, don't believe me anything I say. Know for yourself. Follow that
Beautiful.
through and know that you have the human technology that can identify it all and change how quickly you get something. It's one of the tools that I used to say I was allergic to manifestation because it drove me crazy, statistically speaking, that 74% of the population believes, there's that word, in manifestation, and 99% of people don't get what they want. And
Well, and that
simply it's
that
simply
could
in the space of the human technology because they think they have to do something to get something. And that is
right.
not the key. The key is to know something first and shift within you in order to experience what it is you want reflected back, which whatever that is available. But it starts here first.
Yes. And by taking an action that's conveying to,
Oh yeah, it's coupled
right?
together for sure.
It
I mean,
shows commitment, right? And it's energizing for people to do something action oriented towards that.
it gets
So
frustrating
they're
though. How many
yeah.
people have you worked with that are like, I keep doing all these things and I'm still not getting what I want?
No, because it goes back to what you just said, that they're not what they're thinking and who they're being. They're not lined up with the action that they're taking. So that,
Yeah, I see
unfortunately,
what
for
you're
the
saying.
sake
Yeah.
of time, yeah,
Yeah.
we need to wrap up on that. But because you and I could probably talk about that for hours on end about the
Oh,
difference
for
and
sure. Yeah,
how
for
that
sure.
shows up. But it can be
Yes.
really confusing for people. And even for manifestation, I'm frankly moving away from the belief in manifestation because it's more about just designing an authorship and rendering. And I'm noticing in doing that myself that things are happening really fast and really
Of course.
easily
Yeah,
with the mixture of the declaration with an action. So
absolutely.
that's what's been really interesting.
So
But
good. Yeah, you and I could talk for hours. And we
yeah,
see, this is exactly that. You're proof in the pudding. Our own unique human technology is unique to each individual, born that way. And when you
yes,
access it and are able to use it, you start seeing the results. The sky's the limit. Even then, it's not even a limit. It becomes a program just the same. So that's the invitation for everyone, is to
absolutely.
access that piece of it for yourself so that you know that you can create from that space. Not everybody has to do it your way. You get to do it your way. And when you're getting what you want, nothing else really comes into play being a hurdle for any real reason. And then you can share it with others as well. But
Yeah.
knowing that it's not any one person's way, it is your personal way that will get it for you, and everyone else's unique way will get it for them just the same. And I think that that in itself could change the world, really,
Yeah, there's
truly.
no one magic formula, I don't
No,
think. But
no.
speaking of invitation, if this conversation resonated with you, pause and ask yourself, what internal system am I currently leading from? And also, if you're a leader navigating growth, transition, increased complexity, and you want a grounded conversation about what's really shaping your decisions, reach out. One conversation can change a lot. Again, book a resolve session with me. Uh, a lot of leaders and business owners work with me in the thick of a hard decision or a charged situation. And that session can help because it can help you stay grounded, see real dynamics at play, and walk away with next clear steps to help you move forward. And also, I created the conversation prep toolkit because, again, hard conversations is something that people work with me on too. So, and I've provided a complimentary guide when you sign up for my newsletter so that you can step into those moments with more intention, less worry, less hesitation, and communicate in a way that really lands. So Jesse's going to share that link in the chat as well. So thanks everyone for being here, and please subscribe to the show. We've got some other episodes coming up. We're booked out for months on end. So I'm looking forward to coming back and having some more energizing conversations like this one. So thank you for joining me on Alchemize with Alanna, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
Thanks, Wendy.